everyone. Welcome to Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri's podcast. I'm your host, Russell Reynolds. My guest tonight is the member of the TV show that was on the Travel Channel, Legion of Exorcists. He's also an author, deacon at the Old Catholic Church. Please welcome my guest at this time, Shawn Whittington, and we'll bring him on. Hey, Shawn, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm feeling blessed. So happy to be here. Excited that you invited me to come on. But let's get the most important thing out of the way first. Wonderful opening music. You and I are Facebook friends. You have to send me who did that song. You almost had me up out of my seat dancing. But I figured that, you might not have expected that when you brought me on if I was, but that was, who is that?
Brandon actually made that for me.
Yeah, I'm going to have to reach out to Brandon and get who does it. That was excellent music, really. But I'm so happy to be here, man. I'm glad you invited me on, and wouldn't have missed it for the world. So God bless you. I hope you're doing well. And
yeah, doing good. Staying busy.
Yeah, absolutely. We got, what is it, the 29th. So we've got 2 days left to this year. You got any big plans for New Year's Eve?
I'm going to stay home, work on some paranormal evidence from some cases.
I will be staying home too because I know my wife has to work New Year's Day, so she won't even stay up for her alarm goes off like 3:30 in the morning. So I know she'll be asleep long before then. But I'm gonna try and stay up and watch the Stroke of Midnight and the down here in Vegas. They televise the big fireworks show they have downtown on the Strip. So I like to kind of watch that if I can stay up, and then so it'll be a quiet New Year's Eve and an even quieter New Year's Day, which I like.
Tell my audience a little bit about yourself if some aren't familiar with you.
Not much to tell. I'm boring. I've been seeing spirits since I was very young. I've been actually ghost busting since a young age. Recently, I say recently, met my wife, fell in love, and got married to her 21 years ago, and we started ghostbegone.biz, and we were just paranormal investigators for a while, and then we ran into a very ugly case, very ugly and dark case in which something from the case followed us home. I was really not prepared for what we ran into, and this, whatever it was, took residence up in our home for a couple of months. And I reached out to the paranormal community for help, and God bless them. Once they came through for me and introduced me to my then mentor, who's now retired, and she taught me how to. She helped me fight and get this thing out of the house, and she talked me into continuing my training in the deliverance ministry field, which I did, and the rest is history. So I eventually went on to become an ordained deacon in the United States Old Catholic Church. I'll be ordained a priest in March in the United States Old Catholic Church. My wife is a Stephen minister through the Lutheran Church, and we still have ghostbegone.biz, still help people with their paranormal issues of all sorts, but mostly nowadays the darker, more violent type cases come across our desk. And that's about it, man. I'm just a regular guy, during the day. I'm a part-time veterinary technician. My wife is office manager at the same animal hospital. And but first and foremost, 24/7, we're ministers, and we're fighting the good fight for people. And there's a lot of people out there that need that kind of help. So,
Sure is.
like you, we stay busy too.
Yep. And we deal with a lot of the darker stuff on my group too, as well. We've been getting called quite a bit for a lot of it.
And you're based out of Missouri, I believe?
Yep.
So Missouri's still there. How's Missouri doing?
Not too bad. It's still pretty active.
Does Missouri, any of their colleges or any of those teams in any of the bowls this year?
I don't think so.
I don't remember seeing them on the list that somebody sent me of bowl games, but you never know. Do you have any friends in Oklahoma?
No, I don't.
My father's family, uh, from Wyandotte, Veneta area in Oklahoma there, and there's also a lot of Whittingtons in the Missouri area. So I know some that are in your state. So I was just wondering if you knew any Oklahoma or other Missouri Whittingtons. But a great part of the country, man. Do you like
Hmm.
born and raised there?
No, I'm actually born and raised in New York State.
Wow, that's a big change. Did you come over there as a youngster or just recently?
No, I came over in my early 30s. I've been here over 10 years now.
Very good. Do you like it?
Oh yeah, I love it out here.
Very good. Well, you're doing good work, man. I hear great things about your team and what you guys are all about. So, and that's what it's all about, man. I wanted to meet you even more so than be on your show. I wanted to just to meet you and tell you good job and
Oh,
keep up.
I appreciate that.
You got it, brother.
I know that with the paranormal field drama that's going on like crazy, it's nuts.
I I have to be honest with you. I can't remember when I was a real young kid riding around on my, Schwinn bicycle, and I had the little basket in front with a like a Polaroid camera and a little tape
Hmm.
recorder and looking for, haunted looking locations to go in and try to do some, ghost hunting. Um, Never, it didn't really dawn on me that there was so much drama in that field. And I wish I
Right.
could go back to that mindset. But now, as I got older, I realized how much drama there has always been in the paranormal field, still is, and sadly enough, probably will always be. I just try to put the blinders on and avoid it at all costs. And I'm just really, it's like the drama in our field is like an anchor that's just weighing us down and drowning us as a community. Everybody
Yeah.
talks about para unity and the paranormal community and unity and all that stuff. And there's a lot of it, but there's also
Yeah.
still a lot of drama. And I wish we could get beyond that. I think the field would be so much more widely respected and accepted, and we would get so much farther with it if there wasn't so much drama. Unfortunately,
Right. And yeah, it's crazy, especially I started back in New York State back in 2006, but I was investigating before that. And then I started Beyond Life Paranormal Research back there, and then I just carried it out here in 2012.
very good. You got a big team,
There's about 7 of us.
and you know what's interesting. I got earlier today when I did my show. I pulled a matter of fact. I don't know what I did with that note. It's a gentleman that I plan to get back to who reached out to me. And I get a lot of requests like this, just now starting, and it's all ages. Sometimes they're young, mostly young, but sometimes they're my age or even older. I'm 64 now, and they're just now getting into the paranormal field. And the reasons for why they do are, all over the board. But many of
Hmm.
them want to know, what should I do now? I feel, I feel the passion's there, and I want to do this, but I don't really know what to do. So my advice is always try and find a local team that is either training or looking for new members that they can bring on and then train, and get
Right.
some be around some people that have been doing it quite a bit longer than you. They can train you. Do you do any of that?
Oh yeah, we do that.
Yeah, I don't think he's near you. I think he was in Maryland, but
Okay.
that's wonderful that you do that, because there's no how else are they going to learn? You can't send somebody can't decide to do what we do and go into somebody's home if they don't know what they're doing. The last thing a person wants is a really inexperienced paranormal investigator that doesn't know what they're doing to come in their home.
Right.
Um, and a lot of teams, like we talked about the drama, a lot of teams don't do that. They will not bring on new members and then train them, which I think is a shame. So hats off to you, man, for you guys making that part of your team available to people. That's important.
Yeah. And we do a lot of conventions too. Like we'll be guest speakers at conventions. We just did one here in October, and we guest spoke, and we were talking about demonic residential stuff, what you come across with people in residential areas and of the field and equipment. And it was amazing on how many people actually sat there and listened that wanted to learn.
People that didn't even know that they had that in their blood or in their bones to be a good paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
Realize going to events like that and hearing people like you speak on the topic that that is what they want to do, and usually it's because they've had a really sometimes wondrous, but most of the time very puzzling or even very troubling paranormal experience that they they don't know how to wrap their brain around, and it's messed them up a little bit, and they need that guidance. And the next thing you know, they take off. They just like sponges. They absorb all that information on how to go about being a good paranormal investigator, and they end up going on and doing some great things in the field. So
Yep.
yeah, very excellent, excellent. Other than that, brother, I'm just a regular guy, you know. And I did the show, that kind of landed in my lap out of nowhere. And then we were talking in the green room earlier, and your paranormal partner in crime complimented me on the show, said he enjoyed it. That meant a lot to me because we're all proud of the show, and we hope it goes to a season 2. But we're really proud of it, and we're glad that it came out the way it did.
Julie said she loved the show also.
Very, very cool. It means a lot to me. And we have people want to. It hasn't been canceled. It hasn't been greenlit to a season 2 yet, but it hasn't been canceled. It's in technically pending status. So we're still hoping that it goes to a season 2. But a lot of fans reach out to me wanting to know what can we do to help it get there. And there's actually a place on the Travel Channel website where you can go and put your name and your email in there, and you can send in a comment and talk about a show that you liked and that you hope it goes to a season 2 or whatever else you might want to say. So I direct a lot of fans to the Travel Channel website, and there's also a Legion of Exorcists Facebook page for fans that can go there and voice their opinion and talk to a lot of other people that enjoyed the show and talk to a lot of us that were on the show. We interact with fans on the page and talk to them a lot. So they can always go there too. But hopefully it'll happen. And next time I either have you on my show or I'm back here on yours, we'll be able to talk about season 2.
Yeah, definitely. That would be awesome. I like the show as well. I've watched it, and I really enjoyed it, especially because I get into all that, dealing with all that dark stuff, and then working with Farah, because she still works for the diocese office in Springfield, Missouri. So
please give her my best, even though we've never met.
Will.
Please give her my best. Tell her many years ago, we talked about this briefly in the green room before we went live, that I want to say 10 plus years ago, maybe even longer than that, my wife bought me two of her husband's books, which I'm sure she had a big part in writing, which I thought were wonderful books. And we were all saddened to hear about what happened to her husband. So give her my best when you talk to her.
I sure will. She actually got remarried.
Oh, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. Love won't be denied. And who wants to be alone? It's in the cards. And I'm sure, I know that if I went to heaven before my wife, I'd be up there hoping that she found somebody else,
Yeah. And when I got a bad issue that I don't understand, I give her a phone call and she walks me through it.
Very, very cool. That's what it's about, man. That is what it's about.
Let's talk about some of your books that you have written.
Do I have them around here anywhere? Okay. I got it. Yeah, I think they're. Yeah. I got God, Ghost, and the Paranormal Ministry 2, Chronicles of an American Exorcist. And I have God, Ghost, and the Paranormal Ministry, the first book. That is an autobiography. They're both available on the website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. And the good thing about the books is if you haven't done your good deed for the day yet, part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, Nevada, and the ASPCA. So it's a no-brainer. You get to help some of the neediest children
Awesome.
on the planet and the animals too. The books are a little more expensive on the website, but they leave my office here. I autograph them and I put them in a house blessing kit and send them out from here. But you can get them a little less expensive on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. But again, I'm very proud of the books. They've done well, and I might be working on a third one. I'm not a writer. I'm not Stephen King, and it's hard. I, I I admire and I'm in awe of these people that have you know 20 books out, and they're good. They don't just slap them together. They just spit them out one after another, and they're good books. They're well written. I can't do that, man. It's hard to write
Right.
a book, and I was blessed to my publishers. Annette Munich was Stellium Books is very very wonderful person to work with, and so um, you need someone good that you can send your after you've written it. My wife, who majored in English in college, will read it again, and then she types it all up. I'm literally that old school. I'm writing it with a pen in a
Right.
notepad, and then she reads it, spell checks it, and she was in on most of the cases that I discuss in my book. So she can say, "Well, you forgot to write about this, or you didn't add this, or you omitted that." And so she kind of keeps me in check. And then after she's checked it and edited it, she sends it to Annette, who then does the final editing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's getting every time I reach out to her and say I'm thinking about writing another book, I can just hear her on the other end go because it takes a lot out of her. When she's editing my books, she experiences a lot of paranormal activity. So I warn people about, especially my first book. Let me see if I can find this picture. This first book, it's the bottom picture. I don't know how well you guys can see it.
Okay. Yep. I can see it.
You see the child?
Yeah.
Now I was out in the middle. I was called out to a old abandoned historic location in the middle of the desert by the docents that work this place because they see this apparition of this child out there, and they don't know if it's demonic, if it's just a disembodied human spirit. But some of the paranormal activity was starting to spike and they were seeing the apparition more and more. So they asked me to come out. I'm actually on the top of a ladder looking into a loft, and I thought my wife was behind me, and I turned around and I didn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
But down there where the picture of the child was caught, it almost looked, like in the Predator movies, something kind of cloaked. It
Yep.
sort of looked like that, and I snapped some photos, caught the picture of the apparition. I can't tell if it's a young boy or a young girl, but the interesting thing is after I took the picture and put it in the book and we published the book, my wife has seen. She'll walk by the office here every once in a while, and she'll see me right here at the computer working away, and she'll say, "You look really busy, so I don't come in and bother you." And I'll walk into the master bedroom and go to the bathroom, or walk into the kitchen or something, and she'll run into me, and she'll go, "Wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
how'd you get in here so fast? You were just in the office." I go, "No, I haven't been in the office, so that's not me." So she'll walk back there, and then she'll see right after that, and I don't even know what that's all about, brother. I mean, I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I call it a doppelganger, but I don't really even
That's
know
what
what
it
a
sounds like.
doppelganger is. But that apparition of me always turns into the apparition of that child who walks out of our office and through our whole. I live in a haunted house. Walks through our living room and out our back door. And then right after that happened, I had some people that purchased the first book from me. I in the many years the first book's been out, not so many people off of Amazon, but the several people who bought the book from me from that I send them from my office autographed have said they've seen that apparition in their home after they got the book,
Mm,
which I find mind blowing. I don't know how to wrap my head around that either. So I like to always I joke around about it, but I always tell people if you're interested in buying the first book, the book could be haunted. Be aware. I don't think this apparition is anything dangerous, but
right.
you just there you go. I think those it's situations like that that keep people like you and I who've been doing this a long time still so passionate and involved
Yeah.
in this field because we don't have all the answers. I know I don't have all the answers. I know I never will have all the
Right.
answers. And it's those types of things that keep you going because you'd like to try and find some type of answer as to how those types of things happen. But I don't think I'm one of those guys, and I get hate mail for this all the time. I'm one of those guys that just wants to have fun, enjoy being a paranormal investigator, enjoy being a ghostbuster, enjoy helping people, enjoy the
Yep.
locations, have fun, keep a journal. If you get some evidence, great. If you don't, at least if you keep a journal, you can go back and read about your personal experiences, have stories to tell, have fun. But I don't
Yep.
think we're going to be able to prove to all the people out there that don't believe that there is an afterlife. It just is what it is. Until you and I can get a ghost to sit down here and have an interview with us on our
Yep.
podcast, it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
And I'm okay with that, you know. But some people take this field far too serious, and the scientific method, and you got to do it this way. And I've proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is an afterlife, and they really haven't. They may
Right.
have some really really great evidence they've captured, but still the evidence doesn't really prove anything. I wish people would just be more laid back and just about this whole thing that we do and just have some fun, let your hair down. Don't spend so much money. You can do it on a budget and you
Yep.
can make friends and you can have a good time and just have fun. It's one of the great mysteries that's going to leave us with a lot of mysteries. You and I both know
Yep.
disembodied human spirits is a real thing. We both know demons are real. We both know um, angels are real. We both know extraterrestrials are real. Well, at least I know Bigfoot's real. I don't know about you. Missouri has got a lot of Bigfoot, and New
Yeah.
York too.
We're
But we
supposed to
don't
go
we don't know.
on a Bigfoot investigation with one of the Bigfoot researchers. But we're
I have
also going to check the cemetery out too. That's there. That's supposed to be haunted as well.
I have yet to go squatching. And when I started my podcast in 2015, I wasn't into Bigfoot at all. And then I got a couple of friends said, "Why don't you ever get Bigfoot guys on your show?" And I'm like, "You know what? I'm going to do that." And I got the hook in me right away. The first guy I got on the show, I got the hook in, and now I'm just intrigued about what this thing is going to be, and if we're ever going to really get full disclosure on it, like we're waiting on
Right.
for the ETs, But I envy you, man. That you're going to go out and do some squatching, and that's going to be fun, man.
Be my first one. I've talked to. I don't know if you ever heard of Carter Bashart. That's out here in Missouri.
No, I have not.
He's a Bigfoot researcher. He was a consultant on the Finding Bigfoot for Kansas and Missouri when they did the episodes out here.
Wow.
So we're going to be going with him. Him and I were at a convention together in October. So and
What are you going to do if you come face to face with one? What do you think you'll do?
I don't know. Probably be shocked.
Yeah, I talk to guys all the time that like hunters. I love to hear hunters who don't believe in them. The last thing they were thinking about was Bigfoot when they were out hunting, and yet they see one. They get him in the
Right.
sights, and there's just something about what they see through that scope that won't
Yeah.
allow them to pull the trigger. And I like to tell people this one story that a good friend of mine who's very psychically gifted. She lives up in heavily an area that's rumored to have a lot of activity, Bigfoot activity, but she's not into Bigfoot. She's not into the paranormal, none of this.
Right.
She goes on these long hikes with her dogs. Well, one time she was talking to a friend of hers that called her and said, "How's the new house doing? How's the area doing?" Yada yada. And they're just talking. She goes jokingly. She said to her, "Have you seen a Bigfoot yet?" And it was at that moment, it was like she got hit by a bolt of lightning, and the memories came back. She was actually out and had an encounter, and Bigfoot, without moving its lips or making a sound, psychically did something to her. Like
Hmm.
some people call it infrasound. Did something to her, and she remembers hearing words say to her, "You don't see me. Go home." And the
Right.
thing was, is she remembers her dogs just looking, and she had like a couple of large pit bulls that would normally chase something like that down, but they just stood there, froze, and then all three of them just walked home. But she had memory loss. She didn't even remember it happening, and the thing was like squatting by a river or a pond trying to fish, and looked up
Hmm.
at her and saw her, and that's what the vibe it gave her. And it wasn't until her friend brought it up in this conversation that this memory came back. So I find that really intriguing. I find it intriguing to talk to some of the guys that just go out. They're seasoned Bigfooters. They've been doing it for many, many years. They go out and then they have every paranormal experience imaginable other than Bigfoot out in the
Right.
woods. So there seems to be, I don't know if this is some type of interdimensional creature that's we're seeing, pass through moments in
Hmm.
time here, or if aliens are dropping it off, or being a priest. I um i think God created everything, so I believe it's a, a creature that God created that just happens to have some supernatural properties to it and
Right.
enables it to do some of the things that it does, or we would have captured it a long time ago. And then when I say that to some people, they go, "Well, you know, you can bet that some have been captured and the government knows about them, and this is just one more thing that they haven't been honest with us about." And
Yeah.
if I find out that's the truth, that won't be surprising either. But what do you think? You think we're going to get full disclosure on any of this stuff anytime soon?
Probably not.
Sadly, yeah.
I know one of my friends that are viewing said that I'll go up and shake Bigfoot's hand.
Good luck. Pull back a stump. You don't have an arm anymore.
Right. And the other one said you'll smell him before you see him.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine that he has almost become friendly with this one clan in an area that he's been going to for many, 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 many years. He's got photos of them. He's got castings. He's actually been gifted stuff from them, which
Hmm.
is a big honor. If they gift you something, it's a big honor. And he says one of their favorite things is peanut butter. He gets these big empty cans that once had coffee in them, and he'll
Right.
he'll scoop out a couple of large jars of peanut butter into these cans, and he'll go and leave the can somewhere up in a tree or just even on the ground off of a hunting trail. And they love peanut butter, so when they come and they grab this can, they're probably scooping the peanut butter out with their hand and eating like that, but
Yep.
they'll mangle the can up. But what it does is not only is their DNA being left on the outside of the can and prints, but there's a lot of DNA going in there, and there's always some peanut butter left. Um, I don't know if he's actually taken any of these cans and given them to a professional, a place that does professional
Right.
analysis, this kind of stuff. They're very guarded about. That's another field that they're very guarded about with their evidence because there's a lot of there you go again, a lot of drama and
Yeah.
backstabbing in the field too, and they have to be very careful who they allow see their evidence. But so that's my one Bigfoot tip is don't me personally, I wouldn't run. I wouldn't scream because that's a bit of alarming. Maybe they just want to
Mm,
throw a boulder at you and kill you just to shut you up. So I'm not going to run or scream. I'm not going to run at them. I'm not going to throw anything at them or shoot at them. But I would, I would just, I'd try to do that. Leave some bait, some trap cameras, and some bait, and but it's just something fun to do. Go out there and knock on a tree with a bat and do some howls. And I know that's all old school stuff, but it's
mhm.
fun. It's all about going out and having fun, man. And believe me, if you run into them, like you said, you'll get the smells. You'll get that, I, the only way I can describe it is some of these guys say you get this Bigfoot heebie-jeebie thing that when they're around, it's just something, this feeling comes over you, and you're almost like you're halfway between being frightened to death and halfway between miraculous wonderment. But you're
Right.
just like, you got to be kidding me. Am I in the presence of a Bigfoot? Especially if there's adolescents around or it's a large clan that has surrounded you. But I don't think unless you are a danger to them, I don't think really there's anything to be feared of them. But I've spoken to a lot of friends of mine who are indigenous, um, and they've told me that a lot of these reservations have big clans of them because this is federal protected property, and
Yeah.
even the feds don't go on the Indian reservations, so they feel safe there, and the Indians just or the indigenous just interact with them, and it's like they grow up with that, so it's just not a big deal. They just, oh yeah, they're here, but it's not a they
Mm.
really think it's a big deal, whereas you and I, it's a pretty big deal. But
Yeah.
so I hope you got to get back to me after you go on your trip and let
Oh,
me
I
know.
definitely will.
I'd be really interested to even have you on my podcast and have you tell me all about your
Yeah, definitely.
Squatching adventure.
Yeah, we're supposed to go sometime in March or April with them.
Very cool. In Missouri?
Yeah, we're going down to the Mark Twain National Forest.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Be ready. Be ready. And
What are some of,
I think they know something. I think they know who they
right?
can interact with and who they can't interact with. And you
Mm-hmm.
seem like just a really, you seem like you're a good soul, and I have a feeling that you're gonna probably have the experience of your life.
Probably, yeah. It'll definitely be an interesting part because I mean I'm a hunter. I've been in the woods all my life too as a kid, and I've never experienced anything like that. So, but with that, I know some of your cases are confidential. What is one of the craziest cases involving something demonic that you've dealt with?
Well, I should by now learn to pick another one. I always pick this one, and then sometimes it can be a little emotional talking about it. I think I'm okay tonight to get through it without embarrassing myself. But I have to say the very first one, because we didn't know. My wife and I, we were just at a coworker of mine asked me to come. I was already working in an animal hospital that was haunted. So something there followed a coworker home, and she asked my wife and I to come over to her home and help her. And when we drove up to her um, apartment, I thought I saw her sitting on the porch. So when we got up to her front door and knocked, for her to answer it as quickly as she did, I said, "Oh, did you run to the door?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I just saw you out on the porch." She goes, "No, I haven't been out on the porch all night." So right there, I knew. So
Right.
we started investigating. Now, we knew it was a violent haunt. But like I said, we had no experience dealing with anything really malevolent or demonic. So they were a young newlywed couple. She was being raped, for lack of a better description, by something that she couldn't see when she would be sleeping in bed at night right next to her husband. Sometimes he'd even see the attack, and if he tried to intervene, he would come under attack. And then the attacks got more frequent and more violent, and then they would happen all over the place, not only in the bedroom, but when she's taking a shower or when she's even
Mhm.
sitting on the couch watching TV. So we're there in this apartment, and I've got my brand new. I don't think it was. It wasn't cheap, but I don't think it was like a full blown high def full spectrum camera or anything. It was just like a really nice camcorder I had, and I'm panning through the living room, and I pan past something. I'm looking on my viewfinder, and I passed by something standing right in the living room in front of me. I come back, and it's still there. I look over my viewfinder. I can't see it with my own eyes, but it's on my viewfinder. And when I tell people this, they go, "Really?" But it looked like an angel. It looked like some type
Right.
of glowing angelic figure. And so I decided I'm going to walk through it. So I keep watching it on the viewfinder, and I walk through it. When I walked through it, I got like an electrical jolt, and it sounded like somebody right by my ear went just like slapped. I
Mm-hmm.
turn around, I still don't see anything, but it's still there on the viewfinder. I decide to walk back through it again. The shock was a little more intense. I actually lost my breath. The clap was louder. It almost sounded like a balloon popping, but no one else heard this. And my camera blew up. I mean, my camera literally blew up, started smoking. I remember
Oh
I was
wow.
so upset about that. When we took the camera in, actually, I gave it to my wife to take in. She said the guy asked me when he looked at it, was this in a fire? It looked like the camera had been in a fire. It was pretty amazing. So no one else saw this but me. My camera blows up. We start investigating, and honestly, it was a pretty boring investigation. The only thing that happened was I was sitting in the living room table conducting an EVP session, and the young girl was across the room from me in the living room sitting on a couch. And all of a sudden, it sounded, I know there's nothing on the other side of the wall behind her but a stairway. And she's the only
Mm-hmm.
one at the top of that stairs. So, unless there was somebody out there, which I know there wasn't, sounded like somebody on the other side of the wall, as hard as they could, smacked the wall with a bat. And it was so loud and so forceful, it shook the apartment. And the husband and wife on the couch actually got airborne for a second, and the look on their face was like, "What was that?" So what we did next is what I honestly here I'm going to get hate mail again. What we did next was something that I'll never do again, and was we used a Ouija board, and I
Oh wow.
believe it was yeah, I know we used a Ouija board, and I believe that was what allowed this thing to attach to us. And when we left the home, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. It's always 3 o'clock, isn't it? And we're
Yep.
driving home, and my wife's phone starts to ring, and she's got caller ID, but she looks down and there's no number there. She goes, "I don't want to answer it. That's kind of weird." I go, "Well, it might be the client." Answer it. So she answers. There's nobody there, and I think that was the beginning. So we got home, and that very night while I was sleeping, I had this vision of a black cloud over me that kept swooping down on me and swooping back up, swooping down and swooping back up. And I woke up really gasping for air, like I couldn't breathe. And I got out of my bed and I stepped into ankle deep water. We had like a water main in our wall burst,
Mm-hmm.
and it flooded us out of the master bedroom. And the haunting was so violent in that room, we ended up, well, for many reasons, the flood guys had to come and they had to clean out the room. So they had those big fans. They rolled all the carpet up and had the big fans going, running around the clock for like 10 days. So we slept in the living room, which to this day we still do, because it's just we just feel weird going back in that room. Um, but it escalated from there after I experienced this thing was all about manipulating the environment. Like I went into my
Mm-hmm.
garage and there was a big swarm of bees, and I went outside and birds, like these black birds, were attacking me in my garden. And it was just a lot of weird things were happening. I reached out to the paranormal community. I got this thing after 2 months later. I got this thing out of the house, but my wife was the primary target of this attack. And I want to say within a matter of days after we got this thing out of the house, my wife comes home from work one day. She's talking to me with this really bad lisp. And I'm like, "Honey, are you okay? Did you have something to drink with the girls on the way home?" And I know my wife doesn't drink. She's all,
Right.
"No, I have a broken tooth and my tongue's rubbing on it. I got an appointment at the dentist tomorrow." She went to the dentist and he said, "No, that's not it." as she was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue. Now, she doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, the healthiest person that I know, no history of cancer in her family. She ended up having three very rare forms of cancer laid on her within days. Squamous cell carcinoma of the tongue, which became another very rare form of throat cancer, which became medullary thyroid cancer, which spread to lymph nodes in her neck. Now, if you think about the hideousness of that attack,
Mm-hmm.
she's a minister, wanting to shut her up and have her just be in a lot of pain. She couldn't talk for, I want to say, almost a year. Had a feeding tube in for over a year. She went through months of radiation and chemo treatments and several surgeries. Wasn't supposed to make it. Um, and this is the why I tell this story to people, because you got to be careful. These
Right.
things are real. They're dangerous, and if you don't know what they're doing, they will kill you, because that's what they want to do anyway. But my wife wasn't supposed to survive this, so I took a few years off of doing what I do, even though I was right in the middle of training to become an
Mm-hmm.
ordained minister in a Christian university and a member of the American Association of Exorcists. I'm going to finish that training, but I wanted to help my wife try to survive, and she wasn't supposed to. I never told her that, but it was one night. It was really, really, really bad, and I thought for sure I'm going to wake up in the morning and she's going to be dead. So I remembered something my mother did when I was not born yet. And that's another story, but I'll tell you what I did. I remembered my mother telling me something she did when she was praying for my father to survive when he was on his deathbed, and he ultimately did survive. But I decided, well, my wife, she's going to be okay because she has two huge mastiffs in bed with her, and I'm just going to lock up when I leave. But I'm going to sneak out, and I'm going to go to this all-night prayer chapel around the corner. And I got to this prayer chapel, and I blessed myself, and I got on my hands and knees, and I crawled all the way to the altar and threw myself down on the altar. And I probably laid there for a couple of hours just talking to God.
Mm-hmm.
And something happened during that time, and I all of a sudden clearly got the feeling it's okay to go home now. So I'm driving home, but I'm scared. I'm thinking, am I being set up here? It's okay to go home? Is it because they're preparing me for walking in and finding my wife dead? So I'm a little scared too, but I go home, I walk in, my wife's still breathing, thank you, Jesus. And I'm sitting there, my phone starts to ring. Three, here again, middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning probably. And I look and it's a New York call. Funny enough, you're from New York. And I know that I have a good friend that I've known all my life that lives in New York, named Russell. And I go, I better answer because I know he's dying of advanced colon cancer. He's on his deathbed, basically. I answer the phone. Sure enough, it's Russell. Russell was an atheist, nicest guy in the world, biggest heart,
Mm-hmm.
never hurt a soul, always had my back. I loved him. Great guy. Knew him all my life, but a diehard atheist. And he's in his deathbed. He says, I said, what are you doing? He sounds great. I go, what's going on, man? He goes, well, I needed to call you. I go, why? He goes, I just saw God, and God told me to tell you that Sharon's going to live and that you need to keep fighting those responsible. So, wow, I got through that without getting too emotional. So, um, he uh, he died shortly after that, but I reached out to his family and told them about that last call. They were so happy that, he found God at the end, and he didn't lie to me. My wife made a miraculous turnaround and survived. She's still with us. The last full body CT and MRI that we took show no metastasis of any of the diseases in her body. She's still having some issues, but she's still here. And I got back on the horse. I contacted my mentor and said, I need to get back in the training. I'm being called back to this. And it's a good thing because the very next case was a possession case where I got attacked and I
Mm-hmm.
survived that attack. Colleagues of mine really believe that I actually died during the attack, and it was due to extreme divine intervention that I was brought back from death during that attack. But then the very next case after that, I didn't want to work. I mean, twice in a row now. I left this field once during my wife's illness. I left it a second time after being so frightened after my attack.
Right.
I'm like, if they come full circle and come back after my wife again, she's a goner. But then a pastor friend of mine talked me into helping her with a case. And I said no a few times. Finally, she talked me into it. I went with her on this case. That turned out to be a possession case. And it was during that case that I actually had a vision of the Holy Spirit. And that changed my life all around. I knew then that they were telling me, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and we have your back. So don't worry. And I got back into the field then. But those would have to be, I like to tell those stories because I talk to a lot of people that have, been at the wrong place at the wrong time, said
Mhm.
and did the wrong thing, ended up with an attachment, waited too long to get help for the attachment, and it turned into bad oppression, and then a couple of times possession. Um, Sometimes deaths have occurred. So I just like people to know that, it's a very, very real and serious thing what we do. You see it on TV. You watch Ghost Adventures, you watch Ghost Hunters, and hopefully they send me a check for plugging their two shows like they need it. But you watch shows like that, and you think it's all fun and games, and it's not. And so I take this field very seriously, and there you go. And I just hope what people get out of that story is just be careful. If you feel a passion for this field and you feel you're being called to it and you're good at it, great. But if you're doing it just because you think you might be on TV one day, you should stop and
Right.
always protect yourself before, during, and after your investigations. I don't care if it's a commercial location or someone's home or your own home or at a cemetery somewhere. Always protect yourself, whatever that is to you, whatever religious belief system you have in place or not. Find a way to protect yourself and be careful.
Yep. And that's what we do. We cleanse ourselves before we leave a location, before we even enter our car. We even cleanse our equipment and everything. And because you never know what you're going to bring home with you.
Absolutely. And the good thing about you meeting me was even when you first sent me that message, you'd like to have me on your show. I added you to my prayer list. So I pray for you and your team often. And you can never be too careful. I know people that have been doing this for many, many years and are highly religious, devoutly religious people who still run into trouble occasionally. So none of us are exempt. We're all targets. We all have wanted posters of us hanging in hell.
Yep.
So just got to be careful.
Have you ever worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren at all?
Sadly, no. I'm of that age. I'm not as old as they were when they passed, but I'm in my mid 60s almost. So I grew up watching them and admiring them, and that would have been a dream come
Mhm.
true. But unfortunately, no.
Yeah, I didn't get to meet him, and I'm actually related to him.
How's that? That's
We're
cool.
actually we're actually cousins through my dad's side of the family.
That's so cool, man. That's very, very cool.
And then John Zaffis, we're related to him as well.
That's very, very cool. I can remember years ago sending John a friend request, never heard back from him. Reached out to him a couple of times to be on my show, never heard back from him. I know he's one of the busiest people on the planet,
Oh yeah, he's
but
busy.
reach out to me and say hey or something. You got my message, and no, I don't want to come on your show, or leave me alone or something. But and then I saw a friend of his, who's a mutual friend of ours, uh, said happy birthday to him on Facebook, and I commented, "Wow, that guy's old." But everybody knows that I'm a smart ass and I like to joke around. Hopefully, he didn't take
Right.
it as an insult. I didn't mean it. I meant it as a joke. But maybe I'll get a chance to one day talk to him, and we can just talk shop. And I have a lot of admiration for him too.
Yeah, I just brought him a haunted object last summer. We went to Metacon. He was a guest there, so we brought him a haunted mask that we got from a location.
Very, very cool. Yeah, you got to
So
get
it's,
ready. Yeah, if you're not ready to, like, I have a lot of haunted items here in the house, many that have been bound and buried in my yard, some that are bound and I leave in the garage, some are here in the house, but you got to be careful with the haunted objects. So you had, knowing him and being related to him, you couldn't have handed that mask off to a better person than him. But I always tell people all the time, I have people that try to put together their own haunted museum. I'm like, you better be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, you better be careful. That's like taking it to the next level. It's like
yep.
literally taking your work home with you, and then what are you gonna, beyond taking your work home with you, and it can be dangerous.
Yeah, we worked a case down in Miami, Oklahoma, and the guy was doing some demonic worshiping. He had a book on witchcraft and how to sacrifice and kill people, and he had the necklace, the pentagram necklace with the goat's head, and they were using a Buddhist sing bowl for demonic practices as well. So we took everything out of that location because I mean they had kids in the home, and the daughter was playing with tarot cards and stuff like that, and she had no clue what she was doing either with them.
It just, yeah, it's sad when you come across cases like that. People just, they just don't know the dangers. They're just, uh, I'm not, they're just not educated. They get into that stuff without educating themselves on the dangers and what they're getting themselves into. And that's the sad part. And then guys like you and I are getting phone calls later.
Yep.
Uh, yeah.
My phone rings day and night. I get phone calls like crazy from people because we're one of the, when they look us people up for investigators from Missouri, we're one of the first teams that pop up. And they look at our ratings. We've got a 5-star rating, so
Good for
they
you.
choose
I
us.
know. I've heard good things, man. I've heard really, really good things. I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that. We've worked hard. It took us quite a few years to get where we are today. And if any of my audience has some questions, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Okay, shoot.
Feel free to post them in the chat. Julie Morris said, definitely have to be careful, had a few scary places.
And don't be ashamed to ever leave if you feel overwhelmed. I do. There's times where I'm at a place and I feel I need to go get some fresh air and maybe even leave the location for a couple of days and regroup, try to psychoanalyze what it was I was feeling and why was I feeling that way, and push the reset button and reset myself to go back and come at it at a different angle with a different lens on, so I can look at it a little different. Never be afraid to be afraid. We're all human. It's a human emotion.
Yep.
And like I said, we don't have all the answers. We don't know really what we're encountering. So you just got to really be careful.
Tracy asked, what's the website for the books?
www.ghost, GHOST, -B as in boy, -gone, GONE.biz. And everything's there. I offer a 12-week online course, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. There's places where people can make an appointment with me to talk to me about spiritual issues, not paranormal. And then the books are there too. And you can get the books singly, you can get them together. But if they're off the website, I autograph them and I put them in a really nice house blessing kit. So you get some weapons to use if you ever go someplace and you need to do some cleansing and blessing, or even on you. The kit's basically meant for the person that's getting it for their own home, because they're getting the book and they're probably into our field, and it's for their own private use. But I know many people that take that kit with them on location and do on-site smudgings and blessings and cleansings with it. So that comes from off the website. Those books come from my office right here, but you can get them a little less expensive at Amazon. And I throw Amazon out because I love my publisher, and that's the only time that she'll get a little piece of the action as if they buy them off
Right.
of Amazon. But um, and like I said, and I've supported stjude.org, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, Nevada, and the ASPCA since, oh my gosh, I already support them. So whether I sell another book, I still every month get their little envelope and their letter thanking me for my donation because I've already signed up years ago to send them
Right.
something every month. And it's just because I've been in the animal care industry most of my adult life, and St. Jude is that's another story I can tell you. And that story's in one of those books, probably the first one, how St. Jude became such a huge um, saint attached to my family, the Whittingtons. That story's in that book too. So
Okay.
St. Jude's an old family friend, and so it was a no-brainer to help those out. And I just can't think of anything more heartbreaking and terrible than a child with cancer. I having gone through it with my wife, who's even older than I am. Um, I can't imagine having a child with cancer. I just couldn't imagine it. I don't even adequately have the words to adequately to say how that must be because one I haven't experienced
Right.
it other than my wife, but that would be just that I couldn't imagine.
Kathy asked, how do you reconcile what the Bible teaches with what you do in this line of work?
Well, I'm a baptized Catholic, also confirmed in Catholicism as a young baby. So I've been a Catholic all my life, and I just you know you get brought into something you didn't ask to be brought into. Next thing you know, that's part of your life. And so it is what it is. The United States Old Catholic Church, um, we are very accepting. We're one of the few churches of its kind that reaches out to the paranormal community and tries to help people because a lot of churches won't help you. Even if you're legitimately have someone in the family that's possessed or you are suffering demonic infestation in your home, you reach out to help. A lot of Catholic churches won't help you. There's a lot of big, long, drawn out process that you have to go through with a lot of these Catholic churches. United States Old Catholic Church is not like that. We also have offshoot branches of the church, like the Society of Saint Benedict, which I'm a member of, and we're there to help the paranormal community also. So, I was seeing spirits when I was a young child, and my mother, who's probably the most devout Catholic I ever known, she was Brazilian, and she just, when I came to her with my problems as a little kid, what I was seeing, she was very a matter of fact. I don't know how she knew I would see spirits all my life, but she said, "Listen, they're just people. They don't have a body any longer. Nothing to fear. Ask them what they want of you, and if you can help them, great. If you can't, tell them to stop bothering you." But there was other things I saw that she knew were more dangerous, and she would
Mhm.
tell me different things about those things. But I was experiencing that as a young child. So I went many, 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 many years in the closet with that because I didn't want to come out to friends and have them think I was weirder than they already thought I was. When you're a young kid, you want to have friends. So I held that kind of very close to the vest and kind of in the closet. And I wished I would have came out, for lack of a better term, wished I would have came out of the closet a lot earlier with that. But started really doing that. I want to say right about in my 20s, started coming out of the closet about that was a passion of mine, and I had a gift, and this is how I wanted to help people. So so there you have it. It's I'm not committing heresy. It just is what it is.
Right. One last question. Julie Morris asked, do you believe that after a haunted location gets torn down, do the spirits stay as if it were still there?
I believe in some circumstances they do. They remain attached to the land, which is part of that property that gets torn down. I'd like to think that many of them cross over or move on. but I do believe that in many circumstances they stay there attached to the land. Um, my wife and I worked a case here where there was a home built on some land that became an animal cemetery, and the woman that lived in the home sold the cemetery, then died in the home, and there was a lot of activity in that home. And then they tore the home down and built a bank. And it wasn't long after that, the bank manager went and complained to the cemetery people what was going on in his bank, and they reached out to me. And so I don't know if anybody else out there has ever investigated a bank. That's interesting. Um, so they were still there haunting the bank now. So I do believe in some instances they do stick around.
Well, we're at our 9 o'clock hour. I thank you for coming on the show. And if people need to get a hold of you, how can they get in touch with you?
There's a contact form they can fill out on the website, and there's also an email there, so they can send me a message on the website email or fill out the contact us form, and I'll get back to them.
Okay. I thank you, Shawn, for joining me tonight. And
God
it's been
bless
an
you,
awesome
brother.
show. God bless you as well. And
And I'll be
keep in
reaching
touch
out to you. I
with
got to
you.
get you on my show too.
Definitely. I'll be glad to be on.
All
I
right,
thank
brother.
everybody in the chat. There won't be a podcast next Friday because I have to work Friday night. So we will see everybody the week after. God bless. Stay safe out there and have a happy new year.